WNST. As we get ready for U.S. Open at Shinnecock, we have a Stanley Cup champion with the Washington Capitals. I'm talking a ton about that. New NBA champion, not new old, in the Warriors, as well as a Triple Crown champion in Justify. Flacco is flicking the ball around, and all of that is fair game each and every Thursday from 3 until 5. It's Dennis Koulatsos, hosts the Sunday Sports Voice. He has been very active around here and out on Twitter, and we've been retweeting him as well from our time out in Vegas. Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals, Dennis. This has been something to behold, especially for a guy like me that's a real hockey fan, to watch everyone else sort of fall in love with hockey. I don't know if it's temporary or permanent, but I think it's fun.
Well, you've been out a lot longer than anybody else in this town that I know of, that I'm aware of, Nestor. You've been passionate for it for decades now, and that's why, I look to you for that guidance and stuff we should have looked for throughout the playoffs and into the Stanley Cup. And now I have to imagine it's so sweet for you to finally get to hoist that cup along with Barry Trotz and all the rest of those great Cap players.
It was surreal. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, we were sort of drinking it in, but it was also very not crazy, no one was jumping in fountains where we were. Certainly down on the ice, you witnessed all of that. I mean, I've gotten more shots from friends of mine who captured my blue jacket down there amidst the sea of red, after the game. I didn't even see the champagne thing until a day and a half later. Like, I was literally home in Baltimore in bed on my mobile device before I saw what they did to Trotz. And I was with Trotz for 2.5 hours after the game. Literally had great conversation. We weren't in a dark place. It wasn't a loud place. There was a lot of conversation after the game, quite frankly. Everything I remember were conversations that I had with players and their families and their joy, and seeing TJ Oshie hand the Stanley Cup to his high school coach and tears in their eye. I mean, it was – I welled up 25 times, during the course of the evening, because it wasn't even about me or anything else. It was about being in the middle of this emotional thing for all of these people.
Yeah, TJ Oshie was certainly a huge story, and even when he handed the cup to his father, who was fighting Alzheimer's, that was another very touching, very emotional moment. There had to be onions around me too, Nestor, because I couldn't quite contain myself. And Alex Ovechkin, I mean, watching all the social media stuff on him, it's like watching The Hangover Part 7 in Vegas, from jumping to the fountains to waking up in bed with a cup. I mean, the images are just really, really fun to look at.
Well, and now we're going to have Jimmy Fallon and a parade and everything that comes after that. What is fascinating amidst all of this, and my relationship with Coach Trotz, and I speak to this from a management perspective. You manage people, you run Coons Ford over at Security Boulevard. There's no secret about any of that. This is really weird with a coach dangling. We have this Buck Showalter situation and Dan Duquette, and obviously, I'm going to be writing this Dear Orioles series coming up, that I'm taking a lot of pride in what I'm doing and what I'm saying and what I believe from a leadership standpoint. This is an incredible leadership situation for the Capitals now, to lead their market, to lead the NHL, for Ovechkin, and yet Barry Trotz doesn't have a deal as he's drinking out of the Stanley Cup 2 hours after the game. It's a weird circumstance, and it sort of harkens back to where the Ravens were with Flacco, but Flacco didn't really have any other options. I mean, Trotz can just drop the mic and say, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah, no question about it. It's definitely a strange situation, but look, hopefully they'll do the right thing and sign him to a nice long-term contract. Someone at the gym asked me if I thought Alex Ovechkin would hang it up. I don't think so. I think the guy's having such a great time. They figured it out. They have the pressure off their back. And now I think going forward, guys like himself and Barry Trotz, they're really playing with house money. They can have a lot of fun going forward without the pressure to repeat.
Well, you remember when Elway won a couple at the end, and certainly Manning was as effective when the ball wasn't getting snapped over his head up in the Meadowlands, that could have happened again. I think Brett Favre chased it at the end again. I don't know that the end is near for Ovechkin. If anything, where he is physically and the kind of way he's taking care of his body, other than on Saturday afternoon and diving into the fountain, I don't see any reason that he couldn't be very motivated to do this once again now that he's done it once. And I think we've seen these directed guys. We see it with Tom Brady every year, that there's another level that some of these guys find. And you know that I've been hanging out with Tony Robbins a little bit lately, and will be again later on in the year. Tony Robbins standing on the bench after the games. What's going on there, and the zen of Barry Trotz right now, and everything that we've seen in the aftermath. I don't know that they wouldn't put the band back together and try to do this again.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, Nestor. Secretly, I've always thought that hockey was the best team sport. I mean, when you consider the athletes and the skating and the stick work and the physicality, the fact that they're underpaid in comparison to other major league sports, I always thought it was the ultimate team sport. And look, my biggest problem was able to follow a little puck all over the place, but now I've gotten used to it. And look, I think I'm going to be a fan going forward. There's nothing to like about the game.
Well, and in the discovery of the game and the discovery of the ritual of skating the Stanley Cup, let me ask you, what do you love about it at this point? What would make you say, I want to go to 6 games next year and split a plan with a friend and take, Christos to a couple games, you and I go down there and have a pregame beverage and make it something we do once a year as friends? And I don't have a lot of hockey friends then, literally. I don't have a dozen guys that I go to games with. My wife loves hockey. I met her at a hockey game. As I've written, my son and his wife love hockey. But I think part of this is, what does this mean moving forward? And did you is it a girlfriend, or is it going to be a wife moving forward as a sports fan? Yeah,
I think it's going to be more wife than girlfriend, Nestor. I went to about a half a dozen games this year. I fully plan on going to at least as many, if not more, next year. There's a lot to like about hockey. There's a lot to like about the game, and again, I'm falling in love with it just as I fell in love with football back in 1973. I think it's got a lot of momentum going. The NFL is struggling right now. They still haven't figured some things out. There's just a ton of things to love about hockey. And look, I got my red jerseys on. I got my hats. I've got my gear, and I can see myself getting more and more invested in hockey going forward.
Dennis Koulatsos is our friend and also our host on Thursdays from 3 until 5. It's the SSV on WNST. I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about that. I know Luke is going to be running around with the Orioles in the evening and the Ravens. It is a very, very busy week for Luke. The Ravens and what's going to happen this week. I know you're going to take specific interest in all of this. I know there's been a lot of focus on Lamar Jackson. I'm focused more on Hayden Hurst at this point and the offense and Andrews and Crabtree and who's going to catch the ball and who's going to run the ball and who's going to be the center and how they're going to play this thing, as well as what Wink Martindale is going to do with this defense right now and letting the pigeons loose a little bit there. It's a fascinating week from a football conversation. I almost wish that this thing was 3 weeks from now so I can enjoy a little bit more of this afterglow of the Caps, but I got to knuckle down for the next couple days with the purple, man, because this is sort of the end of that run, and I'm going to be focusing on the Orioles after that, but it's a purple week around here.
Yeah, well, no one can certainly blame you if you want to bask in the afterglow of the Caps victory for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think you certainly can. I think the Orioles have afforded you that window where you can. There's not much to talk about on the baseball front, but there's always great sports going around. As you mentioned, Justify winning the Triple Crown and what that means, although he would have lost by 25 lengths to the great Secretariat. Rafael Nadal winning his 11th French Open, another great athlete, one of the all-time greats. So there's always plenty of content going on, Nestor, besides Major League Baseball, in my opinion.
All right, so football this week. What do you need to see out in Owings Mills, Dennis?
Well, first of all, let's get everybody to show up, and no injuries. Look, I was a little bit upset when he lost 2 days of OTAs for a rule infraction there regarding the rookies and too much physicality, too much contact. But we don't have Tavon Young last preseason to a knee injury. I'd like to see everybody get there and get healthy. And look, until they put on pads, that's when I really start paying attention. But right now, look, all we can do is watch them run around and see what happens.
Dennis Koulatsos, where were you when the Washington Capitals won the Stanley Cup? Give me a little play-by-play of your emotions and high fives. And I know you were burning it up on Twitter because I was retweeting you during Game 5.
Well, I was in my man cave, in front of my beautiful 70-inch TV screen, and just soaking it in. I was by myself, and I like watching sport events by myself. That way I can soak everything in. I can be involved with great social media friends like such as yourself, and I enjoy the fact that you were at the game there and all the pageantry. But that's where I was in that second period. It was certainly dynamic. 5 goals scored, and I couldn't figure out why they allowed the one goal where the offensive player was behind our goalie and he was able to sweep his leg from under him. That much I couldn't figure out, and I know that you and Ed Frankovic were going nuts at that point, but look, it was just wonderful just to watch it, and with 2 or 3 minutes left, it became apparent that this team was in fact going to win the Stanley Cup, and I was just I was happy because you guys were happy, guys like yourself and Ed Frankovic that have been at it for many, many years now.
Well, on a selfish note, I hope Coach Trotz stays, obviously, and we continue to swab every year, and, he'll bring the Stanley Cup up, and hopefully we'll do a tour of duty as well with the Chalice at some point this summer. I have no idea when or where, but Ted Leons has promised me that on the ice after the game. Obviously, Barry Trotz hopefully stays the coach of the team to come up here to be a part of all that. So there's still, a whole second life. Dennis, I'm going to be really honest with you, and I think, and I wrote this, and I'm not joking. We almost dropped the cup. Like, I mean, if you look at the picture that Freddie Trout put up where the cup is buried on my face and Trotz had his face on it, we were both back with our lips up on the cup, and my wife had the heavy side of the cup, and I didn't even realize that till 2 days later when someone online pointed out, dude, you gave your wife the heavy side of the cup. You had the cup part, she had the bottom part, and we literally, it got top heavy, and we lost it for a minute. Like, literally, Trotz got underneath of it and saved it because I was not prepared. I was too busy being in awe of it to try to support it physically when it was underneath of me. And as we were dining, and I think you can appreciate this if you watch the video later, we were at the corner table on the northeast side of the Strip at the Mandarin Oriental on the 3rd floor in a little ballroom. It was a very tiny room. It was just a little cocktail function room. There was nothing with a buffet. There was nothing about it that screamed red balloons. It was very, very understated. It was very Ted. It wasn't over the top Jerry Jones. It was very sort of normal, which made it even more fun because the cup came in the room, and the cup's so big and silver in a dark room that all you could always see where the cup was. And there was always a little crowd of 12 or 15 people around the cup because there were only 250 people in the room. So the cup comes over to our table, and Ovechkin left it there, and no one had the nerve to move it. So Ovechkin left. He went off drinking. I think he went off to get dressed, quite frankly, in the pink outfit that he wound up in. And the cup wound up at our table for, 45 minutes, a half an hour, long time. Long enough for me to go to the buffet and get food, long enough for me to twice get up and get desserts and bring them back and get coffee, and it was 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning, whatever it was. And the cup kept getting pictures next to where my left arm was because I was eating like a salad, and the cup's head kept coming into between my wife and I kept just sort of touching the cup as it came through. And I kept eating and touching the cup and smiling. And my wife was too busy eating to take pictures. We don't have any pictures of it. And I said to my wife, I'm like, should we not grab Ovechkin and Trotz and at least get one picture? Because there's Alex Ovechkin. He's 10 feet away. He's been standing there. And finally, like I'm eating an eclair or something, or the panna cotta, and I hear out of the back of my head, I hear Ovechkin's voice, okay, folks, the cup's coming with me. I have to take the cup now. And he comes over and picks the cup up, and suddenly the cup's gone, and I'm engaged in a conversation with Trotz's daughter about country music and, I don't know, Nashville and whatever, and the cup's gone, and we pack up and we leave, and we're the last ones to leave the party, and we get on the elevator with Trotzy, and we're with McClellan was literally the last one to leave the party. And we walked 20 minutes back to our hotel. My wife, we're walking down the Strip, and I said, did that just happen? Like, I just said to my wife, did that just happen? It's 4:25 in the morning back at home, and we're walking up the Strip. My wife's like, my feet hurt. We were going to go to Tiesto if they had lost. Remember me telling you about the Tiesto show in San Francisco a couple years ago, how incredible it was? So I said to my wife, we should go over to Tiesto and dance. She's like, my feet hurt. I can't dance. I'm like, all right, it's 4:25 in the morning East Coast time. You're allowed to call it a night, and we can say that we were on a bender, you know? So we get back to the room, and she falls asleep, and I wind up wired. I'm watching Steve Levy. I'm watching Barry Melrose. I'm on Twitter. It's 5:45 a.m. East Coast time, and on my Twitter, I see on video Ovechkin wearing the hat and the shirt where he grabbed the cup from 2 feet away from me, literally, and walked out of the Mandarin, walking through the MGM with the Stanley Cup on Twitter. It is a small world, Dennis. That's all I'm going to tell you, man.
Oh.
Things happen very, very fast on the internet in the modern era, man.
Well, they really do. Now, how heavy is that cup?
35 pounds, but very, very bottom heavy. You know, it literally needs to be picked up from the bottom and supported around the bottom. I found that out. I swear to you, Dennis, I don't want to say we almost dropped it because it was too high up. It was 3 feet up, but I lost control of it because I had the top, not the bottom, if you look at the picture. So we had a little moment of insecurity there where we're like, don't drop it. For crying out loud, don't let me be the one who drops it.
Now, let me ask you about how many fans would you guess were there, Nestor, from Baltimore like us, Harper County, Baltimore County, because during the playing of the national anthem, the O was very pronounced. You could really hear it through the TV set, which told me a lot of Harper County and Baltimore City residents were at that game.
Every game has an O that's 20,000 strong. They do it for Ovechkin. I think it started as an Oriole thing, but when Ovechkin arrived when the Nationals arrived, and I think the fans there had always done the O for the Orioles originally, and I think it's morphed. Now, you would have to ask someone that's more familiar with with how and why it happened. I think they did it even before Ovechkin got there because they were Oriole fans. So I'm going to have to be a little more educated on the Washington side of that, but that is but it does speak to how many Caps fans were there. There were 5,000 Caps fans in Las Vegas for that game. I've watched the replay of it. I sat in the bowl. I was down on the ice after the game. That has never been done in that way since 1998 when the Red Wings fans did it to the Caps in 98.
Got it. Because you know what? At the commencement of the game, Nestor, it looked to me like they had to let Caps fans inside that were outside. That's how many Caps fans.
No, it was the upper bowl. The upper bowl. It all came down, but there were 5,000 Caps fans. It looked eerily reminiscent, right, of the Ravens' victory lap in New England. Remember that? When there were several thousand Ravens fans bowling the stadium in Foxborough, but there were more than that in the appearance of it, percentage-wise for sure. The building was 1/3 Caps fans. Yes.
And I'm sure you knew a lot of people there, this being Baltimore and whatnot, even the region with D.C. I know you and I both have a lot of friends that attend the Cap games from Baltimore.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was a once-in-a-lifetime legendary kind of experience, just like the parade, just like the whole week. And for anybody out there that is new to the Caps or loves the Caps, I tip my cap to you because I think we're on to something here. We're on to a new passion, maybe, part-time for our community. I know the World Cup's coming up this week. The U.S. Open's this week. The Ravens are throwing it around. I got my Dear Orioles series coming. And, Dennis, we'll see you on Thursday with the SSV. I'm looking forward to catching up. We'll talk some more on the backside of the passing camp this week.
You got it. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Dennis Koulatsos is over at Coons Ford Security Boulevard. They sponsor our WNST tech service when Manny Machado is traded this summer. I'll be covering that in my Dear Orioles series as well. You'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. It is our best service. Sign up online, and it comes to you. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I am Nestor. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.